Hello and welcome back. I'm your host, JCP or Jaden Chandler Parnell. Yeah, I can't believe it. 18 weeks up, 18 weeks down. Feel like NFL just started 2-3 weeks ago. Honestly, I can't believe they're already through 18 weeks. College is over, and now there's only honestly a few games left. So feels unreal, honestly. To touch on the Natty for like half a second, Georgia just up in worlds above their competition. I give a lot of credit to TCU. TCU had an amazing season. They definitely, I think, deserve to be in that spot. But I definitely think they deserve that spot. But like overall, I don't know who would have done much of anything against the Georgia team the way they were playing. I mean, that Georgia team all season basically wasn't talked about. They were dominant, and they just had one of the best. It's their time now in college football, I think. I think they surpassed Alabama. They've gone back-to-back, and now I think they are the top program in college football. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the college football playoffs now. I definitely like it, and I think it will be interesting to see how it will go. But after TCU gets blown out now, and a lot of people are going to be like, well, see, this is what happens when you don't have the top two or whatever. But like I said, TCU was 200 to 1. Long shots to get there. They managed to get there, but yeah, Georgia definitely deserves that national championship. They looked like the team all year that was going to do it, and yeah, I just seen after the adversity they faced against Ohio State, a lot of people thought that was a national championship, and now going into Week 18, it's playoff time, so we're going to touch on the games that were important, skip the games that didn't matter at all, really. So going in, Chiefs beat the Raiders 31-13, get the 1 seed. Stidham played awful pretty much, and the Chiefs, much like Georgia did last night, they just looked like they were ready for that 1 seed. They looked like they were really that 9.5 spread wasn't even close. I mean, that's just the words. I can't even find words to describe how bad they blew them out. They had a fun little ring around the rosy trick play that had a horrible call to it. I mean, it should have been a touchdown, but horrible call. They ended up scoring in the next play anyway. So I mean, Chiefs are just dominant. That's going to be fun to talk about when we get into the playoff section. And then in the Saturday night game, Jaguars and Titans. This was actually like a really fun game. Trevor Lawrence didn't have the best of games, and the Titans pretty much were in control the whole way until the fourth quarter, where Jaguars scored 10 points. Yeah, I was just trying to do the score. So it was 16-10 going in the fourth quarter, and the Jaguars scored all 10 points in the fourth quarter. They had a field goal, and then with 3 minutes left, they had a fumble return for a touchdown by Josh Allen that got Duval rocking. I mean, that was a really awesome Saturday night game. The Jaguars played really, defensively they played really impressive. I mean, they had some stuff happen to them, obviously, and then, like I said, Trevor Lawrence didn't play the best, but he stayed in the game. They managed to hunker down, and honestly, they did what they did, and they won. Josh Dobbs didn't play the worst. He actually had a decent game. Makes me wonder what's going to happen with him now going into the future. But for the most part, yeah, Jaguars just earned that win. They played really hard. But yeah, overall, Jaguars went from basically 0 to hero from last year. Urban Meyer was definitely the problem now. That's 100% guaranteed. And, I mean, Doug Peterson has just flipped the culture around completely. It's going to be scary to see what this team does moving forward now, and yeah, I can't wait to get into that matchup a little bit. I'll brush on the matchups a little bit this week for this episode, and then Thursday's going to be like the full breakdown when I go into like the betting side of it, because basically the whole show is going to be spent on all of these games, and I don't think I'm going to have anything else really. So going into the Sunday game, I mean, the Colts played. That's about all I got to say. Texans lose the number 1 pick now to the Bears, so now the Bears have the most money, I think, towards the cap, have the number 1 pick, and seem to have the most flexibility with what they're doing. So it looks like that Chicago has a chance of a really interesting offseason. They have their guy at quarterback, it seems. So where are they going to go in the draft? Are they going to trade down? Are they going to pick Will Anderson? I mean, there's a lot of potential there. I mean, there's a lot. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Speaking of the Bears, they lost to the Vikings. I mean, so you see the Vikings end up with the 3 seed. They ended up falling down a little bit after their late I can't remember what game it was. I think it was a game or two ago. It was like 2 games ago when they had that really bad game that basically screwed them over for the 2 seed now. So they're going to have a rematch against the Giants, which came down to a game-winning field goal from, I think, like 61 yards. So that's going to be very interesting. Bengals-Ravens is basically a no contest. Bengals dominated the Ravens. Anthony Brown was in at quarterback. They scored very late. I mean, the Bengals basically were in control from the jump. So now they have the 3 seed. Home field doesn't matter. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that game. That's another good matchup. Jets-Dolphins, they played football. I mean, the final score ended up being 6-11. Ugly game. And the only reason it was 11 is because it should have been 6-9. The only reason it's 11 is because they fumbled out of bounds for a safety. I mean, very, very ugly game. The Dolphins somehow get in the playoffs. So, I mean, they limped their way in after injuries and everything that's happened to them. So now it's going to be interesting to see. That's definitely the game so far in the playoffs that's going to be the most lopsided, potentially. Seahawks at least have a... Those two at the bottom, man, those are going to be some rough games, I feel like. Speaking of Seahawks, they beat the Rams 16-19 overtime. I mean, Geno struggled a little bit, but he had a few good throws here and there. And I'll give credit to the Seahawks team. I mean, I did not see them making it this far in a while. I mean, I thought they were going to be like maybe 2-3 years removed from playoffs potentially, just going through, getting like really close every season. But they had a really impressive season. Kenneth Walker stepped up and did well in his after the injury to Rashad Penny, and the Seahawks have been very impressive. They still barely beat the Rams though, and that's going to be. There's now a lot of questions with Sean McVay. There's going to be a lot of questions with Sean McVay and what's going on with him, but I'll get into that like at a different time when it's a little bit closer to the offseason, because he said he hasn't made any decision yet. Panthers win 10-7 against the Saints on a walk-off, but not much to talk about there. Two teams aren't going anywhere. Strong finish of the season for the Panthers, I guess. Saints, they have... It's going to be interesting to see what they do in the off-seasons. Bucks blew 17-30 to the Falcons. They played the starters for a little bit. Doesn't really matter too much. I don't think they really focused on the game. Something I forgot to say, too, Patrick Mahomes now passed Drew Brees and set the single-season record for most yards by quarterback with 5,608, and it's like all-purpose yards. We're going to be seeing a lot of that the next, I feel like, year or two, where a lot of records are going to end up getting broke. There was like a few that are broken today. Like Geno Smith broke Russell Wilson's single-season passing record now, which now is 4,282. And then Jamal Williams later in the night game, he broke Barry Sanders' season record for most rushing touchdowns for 17 in the season. And yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more records be broken like that. Steelers played very strong. They ended up winning 28-14, and they would have been in if the Dolphins lost, which it looked like the Dolphins were going to lose for most of the day with no offense. So very disappointing end of the season for Pittsburgh. Not by not making the playoffs, but very impressive by Pittsburgh for how they did down the stretch. They ended up finishing, they went, I think, 7-2 down the stretch, basically after the bye, got TJ Watt back, and they have a promising future with Kenny Pickett. The offense definitely needs some work a little bit for the Steelers, but for the most part, Kenny Pickett played really well, I thought, throughout the season for a rookie, so it's going to be fun to see what Pittsburgh does with him, because I think they found their guy at quarterback for the future. Broncos win 31-28. The big story is that Chargers kept in their starters for how long was that? I think they kept some starters leaking into the fourth quarter. Herbert was done by the third, but I said this on Captain by a Hook with the red beard. You should go check out his I would definitely go check out his channel. He has some very good betting plays, very insightful, and straight winners. I mean, he's been giving out winners basically ever since he started. But I was saying on that show, like, the big issue is with Mike Williams. He's now hurt with a back injury. I don't know what's wrong with him. But potentially there's going to be no Mike Williams for the playoffs game. That's going to be huge for the Chargers if they do not have him, because their offense without him has been a little bit shaky from time to time. Eagles win 22-16 against the Giants. Not much to talk about there. I mean, Hurts played, didn't have too good of a passer rating, but I feel like it was just kind of like a warm-up game to get him ready for, the matchup in 2 weeks when hopefully he's fully healed. Cardinals 49ers. 49ers absolutely blow out the Cardinals, but J.J. Watt's now retired, and it's really sad to see. I might do something, I want to say, in the offseason potentially, where I dedicate just like a little bit of a show to like just talking about how awesome he was and how influential he was, because truly J.J. Watt was really awesome. I mean, he's an awesome human being, amazing football player, truly great football player, and just overall, like I said, amazing human being for what he did for all the communities he was in, and he battled through injuries, and it just really sucks that he couldn't get more playoff games because the two franchises he ended up going to were just kind of incompetent, and they've just been struggling, can't get out of their own way. So it really sucks for him, but it's been a really amazing career, Hall of Famer for sure, and it'll be really cool to see if he comes out of retirement and plays with his brothers, but the way he makes it sound, we'll have to see. I mean, I don't know. He's retiring at the top, playing at a really high level, playing really good football, so I think that's the way he wants it to be, so I would not be shocked if he doesn't come back, but I feel like if an opportunity presents itself to play with his brothers for like 4 or 5 games, I mean, I would definitely think there's a chance he might want to do that. But overall, this amazing career by J.J. Watt. Like I said, one of the best pass rushers of all time and very influential guy. Changed the game, and I don't think the Houston Texans would be anywhere near what they were without him. I definitely would not be shocked if they have a J.J. Watt statue outside of Houston. But for sure, I think he's going in their Ring of Honor. And I would like to say that there's a very good chance. I don't know if the Cardinals will do it, but for sure, I think the Texans are going to retire 99, which I think is a must. And then the Cowboys, the Commanders. Cowboys limp into the playoffs. They'll play the Bucks. I mean, but they basically didn't show up against the Commanders. Dak looked awful and terrible, so that's some bad momentum going into a playoff game. And then for the night game, it was Packers-Lions. Aaron Rodgers looked very off all night. The thing I basically would say about halftime, I knew that the Packers were in trouble. I didn't want to believe it, but I started knowing they were in trouble when Aaron Rodgers threw like 2 interceptions to Kirby Joseph and he didn't pick them off. He dropped one, I think, and then another one was called back for a penalty. And then even in the second half, he picked off another one that was called back for a penalty, and then he finally got the interception. And that guy just had to beat on Aaron Rodgers' deep ball all night. Aaron Rodgers just did not look like himself totally. The run game wasn't fully there. And Quay Walker had a dumb penalty where he pushed one of the medical people. He came out and apologized for it, but very dumb penalty. I mean, especially I would say most of the time, I mean, if he pushed the medical person, I mean, it definitely would have made a scene. But especially what just happened with DeMar Hamlin and everything, I mean, awful move for him. I'm sure in the heat of the moment he wasn't thinking, but it's just an awful look. Can't give him any excuses, but yeah, man, I don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers in the Packers' future. I mean, they look at a potential gloomy future if Aaron Rodgers isn't there. They got a lot of young guys. But overall, very impressive win by the Lions. They knocked the Packers out of the playoffs, opening up the door for the Seahawks, and they played really good. I mean, this is a Lion team that going into next year is going to be an interesting NFC North. The Bears have a chance to be up and coming. The Lions are starting to be up and coming. The Vikings are the owners of that division now, and who knows what's going to happen with the Packers. But as you can see, for the playoffs, I think this is the first time, I don't want to say ever, obviously, but this is the first time I feel like in a while where all these matchups are teams that are playing again. Cowboys, Bucks played week 3, I believe. Giants, Vikings played sometime past week 10, I can't remember exactly. Division opponent between San Fran and the Seattle, so this is their third matchup. Same thing with the Bills, Dolphins, and then Bengals, Ravens. That's their third time playing each other because of the matchups. And then Jaguars, Chargers is a rematch from, I think, week 3 as well, where the Jaguars mollywopped and rocked and socked the Chargers and absolutely just beat the hell out of them. So, yeah, I mean, going into this playoffs, it's safe to say, like, the Bills, Dolphins, Seahawks, 49ers is going to be a little weak. I mean, Dolphins are probably going to be playing their second or third string quarterback. The Seahawks are just like kind of limping in. But I mean, the Seahawks 49ers game has a better chance to be the most, well, I would say, just because they're a division opponent and they both have their quarterbacks. Technically, like the Dolphins and Bills, Dolphins don't even have their quarterbacks. Like the Bills, it's probably going to be a beatdown. I want to say, like, that's a game where it looks like the Bills should like dominate. Especially they just had 2 kick returns. Their last game, and it was the first time in 3 years and 3 months. Josh Allen's threw 3 touchdowns to have 35 touchdowns, 5 rushing for the third time in a row. I mean, there's a lot of 3 vibes going around. And speaking of, DeMar Hamlin's doing amazing now. He's doing really well. It sounds like he's still in the hospital, but he got transported back to Buffalo to meet the family, and it just feels like this Bills team had all they need to come together, and they're playing really good football. So it's going to be interesting to see if they move on to the next round. When it comes to Ravens Bengals, Lamar is in serious doubt to play. If he doesn't play, that I feel really bad for the Ravens, because if he doesn't play, I don't see how they beat the Bengals. Joe Burrow has been playing out of his mind. He had an amazing quote where he said his window is open, his Super Bowl window's open his whole career. I mean, what else would you expect from the guy? I mean, he's a dog. He's really really good football player, and the Bengals just are hot right now. So if Lamar doesn't play, even if he does play, I mean, he hasn't played in like 5-6 games. So it's just this whole Ravens team, like, it looks like they limped in. It doesn't seem like they could beat the Bengals, but division game, you never know. But it's going to be very interesting to see what comes out of the Lamar camp. For one, this offseason, for sure, to see what's going to go on. The lean is, I feel like, franchise tag potentially, but we'll have to see. And then, for sure, I'm very curious what's going to see happen this game. Jaguars, Chargers. 1-point spread game. I think this is going to be the most fun game for the AFC side, because this is truly a game where we have two young quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert. Both have never been in the playoffs. Both first playoff game. And last time these two teams played each other, I mean, it was completely different. Jaguars had James Robinson, who ran all over the Chargers. Keenan Allen didn't play for the Chargers. But like I said, Mike Williams is hurt, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. But overall, I'm really excited for this game. I'm going to go into it more on my betting show at the end of the week, but I have a little bit of a futures on the Chargers just because odds-wise they were I got them at like plus 2,400 to win the Super Bowl, and hopefully the way it works, I mean, potentially I can get some good odds and maybe cash out well if they get to like the second or third round. But so I'm going to be a little bit of a Chargers fan for the rest of this playoffs, especially too. I really like Herbert. I think he has a really good quarterback. So I'm really excited to see how the two young quarterbacks play in that game. Because the NFC side, I mean, this kind of feels like most years, if you look at these matchups, it would be like, I don't know. So I've been having issues with my camera. This is my now I think 9th or 10th time trying to record this, so I'm not even going to give you a breakdown anymore. I'm just going to end the show right here. Like I said, I'll get into full breakdowns of each of the NFC games on Thursday. Same with AFC. I'll go through everything. I'll go through my betting insights and what I like for the game. I'll go over some of the storylines going into the game on Thursday. And yeah, I really wanted to finish it this day, like I said, but I've now had an issue with my camera freezing and audio cutting out now. So I'm going to need to check something out. So just in case, I at least wanted to finish this off. So like I said, can't believe it's already week 18. And it's already passed, and now it's the playoffs. Doesn't feel real. Really excited for NFL playoffs. I mean, still can't believe they're here, but really juiced for them. Really excited to see what's going to happen going forward. And, yeah, just congrats to Georgia again for winning the national championship. And, yeah, Thursday, like I said, we'll just go over the breakdowns, go over bets, and get ready for a super wild card weekend.